And now it's on to Tales of Phantasia, the animation. Kind of a weird order to go in, isn't it? Being a 4-part original video animation, OVA in short form, was created by Actas and published by Genion Entertainment in Japan back in 2004 and ended in 2006 as 4 separate DVD volumes, and later having a US release in 2007 as one compilation DVD containing all 4 episodes, which at the time was 9 years after the original SNES game and just in between the releases of the GBA and PSP remakes. Unlike the last anime we took a look at, Tales of Phantasia the animation takes the plot from the original video game and summarizes it. But just for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know, the story follows Cress Albain, or Cless Alvain that I prefer, Mint and Chester as they get dragged into a dire situation when the evil King Daus is unsealed from his prison by a man called Mars, who thought he could control Daus, but instead he ends up getting killed and thus Daus goes on a killing spree. This forces Morrison, one of the heroes who helped seal Daus before, to send our heroes back into the past through a time rift, though Chester stays behind. And over the course of the adventure, they meet Cloth and Archie in their efforts to defeat Daus, whilst travelling through a complex time paradox that would make Garland's antics with time in the first Final Fantasy game look like child's play. Because of the fact that there were only 4 episodes that were 30 minutes long per episode, you can imagine that the entire story was summarized with only the main plot points covered, while any other information missing from the game that only fans would probably tell you, with starting from the point when the true antagonist Daus is revealed in the opening episode, to many scenes from the game being changed or removed entirely. But despite that, the changes made from what I could remember didn't detract from the experience. Sure, the pacing was a little odd due to time skipping from one scene to the next, but I won't lie, any locations and situations mentioned would probably require a bit of knowledge from the game in order to fully understand it, as they've just glazed over it with little to no mention of how they got there, cutting out the journeying for the most part. Now, when considering the animation, I think the animation in this was fantastic. It was like a godsend when compared to the animation in Eternia's anime adaptation. Everything was just well done. I mean, what else can I say? It's just great animation at its finest, that actually looks like it came from a Tales of video game, that had actual effort put into all the scenes, including the battle sequences. As for the voice acting, I half expected the English dub to be inferior when compared to the original Japanese voice acting, but surprisingly, both are equally great as each other, with the voice talent giving their all, so either way, it was an enjoyable experience. There was not much music, but when it comes up, it added weight to the battle or the scene, and the opening and ending music themes used were quite beautiful with their peaceful tempo. However, even though I give it tons of praises for what it does, there are just a few nerdy nitpicks I have to make. Because of the said removal and modifications of the story, certain plot important items, devices and locations were moved for both convenience and to streamline the story. Heck, even the whole time jumping aspect of the story was simplified, when in the original they had many more instances of jumping from one time period to another. Also, despite the fact Suzu, a character who appears as a secret character in the game, is in the anime adaptation, she sadly didn't appear much, and she never joins the party for the final battle against Daus either. It was just a slight disappointment, considering she was in the remakes, that I felt she deserved some more screen time, especially when she clearly had a motivation to go after Daus just as much as the others. Luckily this time around, all the characters were kept true to their original personalities, and the story, even with its changes, still told the tale well, and I was very glad that the anime still kept the one thing that made the game strong: its writing and how it depicts the development of the characters and how they interact with one another. Anytime I watch these scenes, like how Cless and Mint, or Chester and Archie talk and support one another, it always warms my heart when watching how they care for each other over the course of their adventure. Even Daus, the main antagonist throughout the OVAs, was kept pretty much intact, being the most coolest, interesting, and original in motivation, with no details of his character changed. Daos is probably in my mind's eye one of the few great antagonists, who is my personal favourite. I like him so much that I want to cover him for his own Antagonist Archives episode someday. But if there was one thing I adored the most equal to the calm, meaningful moments between the characters, were the battles. All the battles were done in such a glorious fashion that even the small ones against typical monsters were treated as equally as epic as any other battle, along with the awesome animation. The only battle that trumps all the others was the final confrontation with Daos, which it should be, and it delivered a glorious, satisfying end to the battle and to the OVA. I know it's not like the original game with minus the transformations, but this battle was still awesome to watch, even after all these years. And one little detail that is shown only once was that they showed one of the healing gel items in action. Take that, Final Fantasy! Okay, I'm just going to stop now, because I am just gushing over this like a fangirl who was given a heavy overdose of man cake injection. So, if you're a fan of Tales of Phantasia, I highly recommend it. It is worth a watch at least. Though if you're new to it, I recommend you play the video game first, otherwise you're just going to be wondering about all the nitty-gritty details that were not covered in the short OVA. But if that doesn't bother you, then it's still watchable as a preview of things to come, so to speak. Well, now with that epic out of the way, what's the next in the Tales of Anime list? Why you no more in, Suzu?